Today we're going to talk about formatting text in Word and trying to make it align the way we want it to and do what we want it to. First things first, when you open a Word document, it defaults to 1-inch margins, Calibri font, size 11, with some weird additional spacing in between lines. I've covered that a bit in another video, so here I'll just simply fix it and we'll move on. Let's say, for example, we wanted to create a resume, but we want our resume to stand out. There are several techniques and tricks that you can do to align your text or to make things look quote-unquote fancy that are not the traditional way of just typing the words on the page. Let's start with a text box. Go to the Insert menu, choose Text Box, Simple Text Box, and it simply puts a box on the page with some text in it. Type here what you want. In this case, let's just say it's your name, and we're going to go with, let's say, Joey Jones. Why not? Notice that there's a lot of extra space around our words here, and it's in Calibri and probably size 11 still. Let's first of all format this text box the same way that we would the rest of our document so that we can work with it the way we want to. Highlight the text so that it selects it. And in the same manner as usual, choose line spacing options to make sure that you get rid of that additional space at the end. But then you can format the text to be whatever you like. Choose something you like, keeping in mind your audience and the purpose of your document. I would suggest that you center the word in the text box and then make the text box a little bit more conforming to the size of your words. The next thing you want to consider is how this text box appears. Notice if I click out of it, it actually has a black box around it. That may be something you want, and it may not. If you don't, you come up to the Shape Format menu. You have to select the item first. And for the outline, you choose No Outline. You also may want to choose the layout options and make sure that you put this in front of other text. That way, when you move it around, it goes where you want it to on the page, and we can do some neat things with some lines here. For example, did you know that in Word, if you hold down the hyphen for a few spaces and hit Enter, it makes one straight line across the page? Or alternatively, if you hold down the equals mark and hit Enter, it makes a double line. So if we wanted our name to appear in front of the double line, we simply need to move that text box in front of the double line. You can also go back to your Shape Format menu, and you can choose Align, Center, and it puts it right in the middle of the page for you. Now your name is perfectly lined up in the center, and it has some additional spacing around the edges. It looks like it's sitting in the middle of those lines that we created. Of course, the next thing that you would want to put is your address and phone number, your contact information that you would have for any resume. Another common use is the pipe. Put a couple spaces around it. Put a phone number, because you must have a phone number on a resume. All right. And so you can do it this way. You can line things up along the middle. You can space things out. There's all kinds of different ways that you can do this. Just make it look nice and be consistent. Note that I am being told that I have a possible error here in my grammar. It's saying that I only need one space between words. However, to make things look right, sometimes you just simply have to ignore those things that you are being told by Word and its default properties. Make sure, though, that if you add additional spacing in one place, you add it in both places so that everything looks consistent. Now that we're on the next line, we want to put in some more line break information there. I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to undo that. And I think I'm going to add an additional blank line in there just to give it some more spacing. Great. That looks evenly spaced. I like the way that looks. And now we can move on to our employment history. Let's say that we put our employment history here. Again, you can do another text box over a line, or you can just do a text box itself so that you can have things move differently. I'm just going to type it here for simplicity's sake so that I can go on and show you how to insert a table to make alignment simpler when you're putting in a lot of information. What pieces of information do you need when you're putting a job on a resume? You need your position, you need the employer's name, you need the dates that you worked there, and you need the location of the place. Below that, you often should put your job duties and responsibilities. And if you had any awards or any sort of recognition while you were there, you would want to include those as well. Let's look at how we might enter that on a resume. Go to your Insert tab, choose a table. We want to do a table that is 2 by 2, and I'll show you why in a moment. To begin with, we want our alignment in this table to be different. If you choose one box and you change alignment, or you change the factors of that box as far as font or color, it's only going to be that box. If you want to select the whole table, you can click this little guy right here and it selects the entire table. You can come here to where it says Table Design and Layout. Those are two menus that appear only when you have a table selected or you're typing in a table. And you can choose how the text lines up in these boxes. Now, for my purposes, I want this box to have text to the left and this box to have text to the right. And I do want that same layout on these boxes, and I'll show you why. I think for getting a job, the most important thing is going to be the position that you had. So let's say that Mr. or Ms. Joey Jones was a district manager, and the dates that Joey was there were from November 1989 to, I don't know, August of 2020. Long time at that job. Why is Joey looking? Who knows? The next thing you're going to want to make sure that you include is the name of the company. So let's say this was Ace Cash Express. I don't even know if that's been around since 1989. And we're going to say that he or she was the district manager of the Houston area. So we're going to say, in this case, just Houston, Texas. Wherever the office is fine. One city is fine. All right. Now, if I hit Tab, my table will expand by one space, and that's perfectly okay for what we're doing. As a matter of fact, what I like to do is to hit Tab twice, or get 2 extra rows there, so that I have one already lined up, even though I may make changes here. Let me show you a neat trick with the tables. If you come over here to the side and you highlight just this one row, and you move until you get the I-beam to move things, it only moves just that one row. Okay, so that's very important when you're trying to line things up. Another thing to note is that you can merge this cell. So now you have just one solid wall of text, the same that you would if you were just typing a regular letter or text of any sort. Now you notice that this did put me left aligned here. I'm sorry, right aligned. I want that to be left aligned because that's how we read in the United States. And I'm going to make a bulleted list of my job responsibilities. I'm going to say that as Joey, being the district manager for Ace Cash Express, that I was responsible for hiring and firing in my district. So personnel management, including recruiting, oops, I can't spell tonight, hiring, training, progressive discipline, and if necessary, dismissal. Now, a note on resumes, you don't want to give too much information. Just hit the highlights, do a couple of bullet points of different things. Let's see, when you hit enter, I need to hit a space or it won't keep making bullet points. So let's say those are all of the things that we've done in our job. And now here, we could put another job, but well, wait a minute, we want some blank space in between there. So let's leave an empty line, and then we go to our job before that. And then we're going to say that before being a district manager, Joey was a car hop from February 1989 to November of 1989. And that was at Sonic Drive-In in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And once again, we have the extra line here. We can merge that cell. And we can type our information in there as normal. Now, you may be looking at this and going, well, this is just a little clunky and weird looking, and no one wants to do that ever. But here's the neatest trick of all. Once you've done all of this, if you come up here and highlight your entire table, you can go to the Design tab, and you can turn off those borders. So now it just looks like very neatly aligned text. Again, I don't have this fully filled out, but when it is fully done, I'll show you what that might look like. This is a resume that is complete that I used tables to design. You can see I have my contact information at the top. I've added the lines with the text box in front for my headers. And then I have a table here with a merged cell for a title. And then I used the table cells themselves to line up my bulleted lists. For my education and credentials, the same thing. These were tables, and I simply turned off the borders of the tables. You can see that here I even indented my text below my job history so that everything is aligned from one section to the next all the way down. These are the joys of using tables when you are creating documents in Microsoft Word. You can start from a blank page, and you can end with something polished and professional and ready to go.